Hi, it's Jason Stratton from the KlopasStratton team, and I have a potential first-time home buyer who actually is a first-time home buyer.
In a way.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way.
And
my name is Rorie.
oh yes, Rorie. And I thought everyone knew that. No?
No,
Okay.
I don't know.
And we're going to talk about kind of your experience starting to get into the pool of home buying and certain things that you've figured out in the process. And I can think of one thing. You were looking at a bunch of houses and had not talked to a banker yet.
Yes. So definitely get your finances together or talk to a loan officer, see what you can afford. You think you can afford something.
I think that's key because a lot of people will look at stuff, and not to say this is Rorie's case, but anyone's case, is that you're looking at things and you're like, oh, I love this, I love this, I love this. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, let me go to the bank, and then the bank's like, well, you can afford this. And it could be a positive experience or kind of a downer.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh my God, I didn't know rates at 3.5, I could afford this much. I don't have to do, I don't have to scale back on X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Or you could be like, oh my God, I have to scale back on X, Y, and Z because this is what I couldn't afford. I think the latter one, when you can't afford what you like and you've been looking at, is kind of sometimes sets you up for failure because you're like, you've got your mind set one way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I can't do that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that the biggest step to take in home searching is getting pre-approved or just knowing what you can afford, because then it's just better to have that reality check before you start looking at places. And
it can kind of set like where you're going to be. Like, oh, if I want to be
Yeah.
in Logan, but I want to be X, Y, and Z, and you're like, well, we can't do that there. Or if we can, it's going to look like this, but we can go to Avondale or Hermosa or
it's like South Irving.
yeah, and you can get what you want because the numbers work there. I think that's the number one thing that you need to do, obviously, because the money sets it, but you also want to set expectations. And in anything in life, you need to have expectations and figure out what you can do.
Yeah.
And then work from those expectations so that everything stays in focus and you're not wandering here and there. I think for a first-time home buyer and to bridge off to first-time investors who are looking at 2 flats and 3 flats, the worst thing you can do is not have your dollars together and not have a focus, because man, it will take you 1,000 different ways, right? There's so many permutations when it comes to real estate, and when you don't have a set focus on that, it can really make things crazy. Anxiety.
Yes, overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's something else, now that we're mention it. The home searching process is a little overwhelming, especially for a first-time buyer. There's all this jargon that you don't know. So having a good agent is obviously very important. We went and looked at a couple places, and there's just a lot of things that you don't think about as a first-time buyer. Like HOAs, I didn't realize that was even a thing, because I'm not in the bracket to be purchasing a single-family home, so I'm looking at condos, but that's something that I hadn't considered. And each association is different and has different benefits, so those are also things that you want to weigh. I mean, what are you getting out of this place that you're moving into other than just living there? Like having a place to rest your head at night.
Yeah, and I think going on your experience, because it just occurred and it was great, because kind of like seeing your face and your eyes open up, we're like, okay, this is, is what you have to figure in going on the HOA is deferred maintenance, right? So Rory and I are sitting in a place and saying, okay, this building has hardly any reserves. It was none.
There were none. It was about to become a condo building.
Yeah. So they had no reserves. The roof was shot, and they had not established HOAs. And I said to Rory, I said, listen, you're not just paying X amount of dollars for this place. You have to realize that roof's going to cost 30 grand. It's 4 of you. So, are you liquid another 10, 15, 20,000? And most first-time home buyers aren't. So it's not just about the unit, it's about the building, because you're buying a piece of the building.
Yeah.
That's why the bank does a condo review, because the bank is going to have first position on that building too. So those are things like that you would never think about, but are literally the single most important things.
Exactly.
Like I always say, and I said it to Rory and I say it to everyone, is like, you're not hiring me to tell you what you like, right? You know what you like. You're hiring Sophia and I and the KlopasStratton team to say, hey, this is the pitfalls. This is what you got to think of. These are all the things that would never cross your mind. But in 2 years, when they pass a special assessment and you have to cut a check for 10 grand, you're like, oh my God. So it's that deferred maintenance, it's that HOA, it's the health of the building that are really extremely important. I mean, I'm almost saying it's like what you can afford is 1, and then this is 1B.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like
because
this.
It's not a hidden fee type of deal. That's not what it is. Like,
No,
you
but you gotta
will
ask.
find out about it, but if you're a first-time home buyer like myself, you don't really think about those things because it's so foreign.
No.
You're just like, oh, this is pretty, and yes, I have the down payment for it, so now I'm going to move forward, and then you get into the more nitty-gritty of it with whoever the selling agent is, or if your buying agent who is as great as Jason and Sophia are, they'll already have brought these things up to you, and then you're like, oh, that's right.
And a lot of times,
extra payment.
Yeah, and a lot of times you think it's a deal. You're like, oh my God, this place costs $300,000 over here, but it's $240 in this building. This is a deal. Well, it may not be. It may be $240 because the building is a mess, and they're making a price adjustment because they know that they got to do that to get you in, right? So you're paying less, but your risk premium is through the roof. So instead of paying $300 for a building that's a rock star building, you're paying $240. In the next 5 years, you're going to be $60,000 out on deferred maintenance, furnaces, ACs, roofs, windows, appliances.
Random things, like if there's any common spaces, like places that have pools. Or
I mean, there's
absolutely.
There's and in a bigger building, you're at the mercy of the association. They may want to say, hey, we want to spend $2 million on new elevators, and literally that's what new elevators cost, and then we want to spend another 50 grand on this. And oh, by the way, I mean, I was at a building this weekend, and 1313 Ritchie's got massive specials, and it's and some of these units look like deals, but when you break it down, it's like, oh, I got to cut check for 25 grand in a year.
What's a special? Because that's something that I actually don't know what that means. First-time home buyer jargon.
So a special assessment is the building doesn't have the funds to cover certain maintenance items that need to be done, or they don't want to dip into the reserves, or they do a blend. We'll take $100,000 our reserves and we'll raise capital. So how they raise capital is they say, okay, we need to raise $200,000 like this. And then the percentage of ownership that you have in that building is the check you have to cut.
Oh, so there's like no say in it.
No.
Oh, wow. This is really convincing me to buy a condo.
No, but you can but there's, it's the same thing as if you're changing tires in a car.
Yeah.
Or, this weekend my dryer broke, the control board in it. All right, it was $365 and the dryer's like $800. So like I should just buy a new one. No.
Yeah.
But those are all things that you're going to have to do as a homeowner too. So the risk is dispersed. Problem being is that as they take a vote, and you may say, hey, you know what? I love our lobby. Things are tight. I don't want to buy for that lobby right now. And if you're outvoted, you're outvoted. However, these things that they do to your place do increase the value of your home.
Yeah, so it's almost like a commune.
Yeah, I mean,
for
it's just
greater good.
For the greater good, and
in certain aspects.
Yeah, and they're tough decisions to make. I mean, we just passed a special assessment, and I'm the president at a building that I own units in, and it was $80,000 split amongst 10 units, and I own 2 units in the building, so that was a stinger. But when someone comes to buy the building in 3 or 4 years, and you have a new roof with a 15-year warranty, you're gonna get utility, you're gonna get money back from that deferred maintenance.
Exactly.
And if you don't get it back, your place will sell quicker than a building that needs a new roof.
Yeah,
so
it's worth the investment. It's just, are you willing to swallow that pill? Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Risk? Like it's all a balancing act of what you're willing to spend, what you're willing to invest, and the long-term eventual return that you will get.
Yeah, everything's a risk reward. I mean, taking a certain route to, get gas.
Yes, Western or
yeah. I mean, you constantly evaluate risk reward. But yeah, I agree with you. But to me, to kind of wrap this up and put a bow on it, the two things are, you got to know what you can buy.
Financing. Yeah.
And you got to understand the building's deferred maintenance and where they sit in terms of HOA fees and and possible HOA increases in just the building itself.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like the attorney review period and dissecting the building is just basically doing a health checkup on the building.
Yeah.
And does the building have cancer?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully
Ideally
not.
not.
No.
Thanks. Thank you for Rachel's laughing at us off camera. Thanks for explaining this
Yes.
to me.